What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Sometimes on Sundays podcast. We are back officially. It's been a little bit of a hiatus here. Today we got a really good guest here, John from Avina Comics. Thank you for coming. I got a little choked up there because I had burped and a little bit of the chorizo con huevo that I had earlier.
Oh my God.
Popped up in my throat, so I'm like a little raspy right now.
You choked on a little.
That wasn't the best opening, but I apologize, John, for that in advance. But it was.
You should apologize to him again for what you just said.
I apologize.
Choking on the chorizo.
Yeah, it happens, man. It happens. You choke on it.
I was choking on chorizo this morning.
Yeah. Oh, were you? Yeah. But not the one that goes with eggs, though, right?
Well, it should have, right?
What's going on, man? Welcome to the show. We appreciate you being here today.
Thanks for having me.
We're so Avina Comics. Tell us about yourself.
So I am a funeral director. I'm a photographer for weddings, quinceañeras, all that kind of stuff. And now I'm making comics. I started off in 2020 with Lockjaw and Pistolero, which is like my first book. And then from there, just started branching off to Lucha Forever, The Last Balletero on the Block, Lockjaw. We got Lockjaw spin-offs, and a new one that's coming out just in time for Fan Expo next weekend called Americana.
Okay.
Nice. Yeah.
Now, you started off with funeral director.
Yeah.
And then you get into everything else creative. How did that happen? What's that transition look like?
So it started with me going to college for film, so going to film school because I wanted to make movies. So I've directed a little bit. I've shot stuff, so more into like the camera of it all. You don't really make money doing that right away, so I started doing weddings, quinceañeras, birthdays, all that kind of stuff. And then I forgot to go back to filming creatively and just started doing that. And then the pandemic hit, and my mom runs a funeral home in Pilsen. And she was telling me, like, hey, we're getting real busy. We don't know what's going on, and I don't know when this is going to slow down. Your wedding's kind of stopped. You want to help out? So I started helping out, and then that just took over my life.
Okay.
Yeah, so I've been doing that. And then my son was born, and I kind of was clearing out a room, and I had all this camera gear, and I was like, oh, yeah, I used to do this.
Yeah.
And I was like, now I just have a bunch of like short films I can show my kid that's like, This is what Dad used to do. But that's not what I wanted. I wanted to show him like, oh, if you want to do something creative, that's fine. Just do it. So then I started writing the comics and teaming up with artists, and like I blinked and now I'm here.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you're 3 years in now.
Yeah.
How did you come up with the idea of Lockjaw and Pistolero?
So my mom was a mariachi singer when I was growing up.
Nice.
And we would go to like all her gigs and stuff. So it was like me and all my cousins, like just a row of like sleeping kids in like the back pews or whatever. But they had that picture of the Aztec guy holding like the dead lady. Mm-hmm. And since I was younger, I was like, well, like what's that stuff? Like that art stuff? Like how do I get into that? And I just started like researching, writing. And Lockjaw is the first book where I was like, okay, well, we have a lot of like things that fight the supernatural, but we don't really have like a Mexican side to that. So I wanted to do that. So I had a mariachi singer who doesn't sing because like his jaw's busted still.
Yeah.
So like in the early pages of the comic, you see his jaw's disaligned.
Yeah.
So now he just plays. And through playing through the silver string guitar, he's able to battle all the monsters that like silver can affect. And that was kind of
Pretty cool.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. Very cool. Lockjaw, how'd you come up with the names?
So for Lockjaw, originally he wasn't gonna have a name. It was gonna be like Sin Nombre was like his kind of like title. But the more I started playing with it, I was like, no, he needs like a cool like one-liner that other people can say. And then I had a lot of it when he talked. A way for me to kind of write that back was like his jaw would like dislocate.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, it locks up Lockjaw.
Yeah.
So I was like, I kind of like that. And then the horse being called Pistolero was a joke because he was supposed to be the slowest horse in the barn till it gets attacked, and then he's the fastest guy out of there. So I was like, okay, Pistolero for that. And then there's a boy that shows up named Pollo who doesn't talk, but he talks through like nonverbal signals. So I was just like, okay, he's like a little guy in like a bird mask. So I was like, Boyle, like my cousins.
Yeah.
So we put that in there.
Nice.
That's pretty cool, man.
Yeah.
So, how difficult is it to like try to get all this organized and come up with all these different covers and storylines and to just get this off the ground running?
It's tough. So I'm like a one-man show. So I write, I find the artist, put it together. I have to approve the art. I have to make changes. So if they draw something or if the artist is like really excited about something, I have to kind of accommodate them for that. So if they're like, hey, I got this really cool idea, like you wrote this, but what if we did it like a splash page? Well, now I have too many words. So I got to move that idea and either simplify it down to just a few lines or move that over to another page of dialogue. So fitting all that. So it is time consuming. It's like another full-time job to do it. Like even on my way here, I'm like answering, responding to stuff or like tracking down pages, getting all that kind of thing. So it takes up at least 40 hours a week too.
And your artists, they're not here?
No, they're mostly in Brazil. I have a couple of ones that are in Mexico that help out. But yeah, Brazil's like a huge market for indie comic creators. So if you like go onto Instagram and just search the handle like sequential art, a bunch of guys will show up and you can message them. They'll tell you their rate. You can see all their work. And yeah, a lot of them, like all these guys they're great.
And you're the writer.
I'm the writer.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I can't draw to save my life. If I could, I would just be making comics, but I can't. So like I'll thumbnail certain sequences if they're confusing or if I'm like getting lost in like the wordiness of it all. But a lot of references that I put are put from movies, so I'll just screenshot and
nice.
just like send them like something like this is the angle.
I got you.
And they'll be like, all right, I understand.
That's really cool, man.
That is really cool.
The artwork is phenomenal. I love the concept. It's just something different, you know. It's like you don't see that all the time, and the artwork and the representation in there. It's really. I love the one with where that kind of rendition. Yeah, he's holding the Aztec kind of rendition one.
Yeah.
That's awesome, dude. That's like my favorite one.
Yeah, they were telling me too when I was doing it. They're like, well, you don't really want the hero to be like defeated on your cover. I was like, well, he's not. I was like, it's like a rebirth thing.
Yeah.
So once I started explaining that and like the whole concept, then people get it. But it's been cool pitching that one because I was like, all right, well, if there's not, because we did a show in Columbus, Ohio. I was like, not a lot of Latinos there. I was like, we'll see how this goes. They were really open to it and they like accepted it. They thought it was cool. And I was like, it's going to feel preachy. If I'm like, I know it's a Latino hero and stuff.
Yeah.
But no, they're into it. So that was cool.
So how many characters are we looking at? We have Lockjaw and Pistolero. We have the Lucha one.
Lucha Forever.
Let's pull them down really quick and show them.
Yeah, I'll get it.
Show I guess some of the stuff here because some really good artwork, man. We like it a lot.
Thank you.
Now, have you sold this into a lot of comic shops yet, or
Not yet. So to sell into a comic shop, you have to buy barcodes for like each title, and that runs about like $90 to $100 each one. So on top of like the cost of the book, right now I'm just trying to build up a base so that way when I take it, I can say like these are the numbers of Lockjaw I've sold, these are the numbers to like the last Paletero, and then that'll help out.
Are you like several comics into any of these characters? Or?
Yeah. So number 2 of Cinema Muerte is coming out this weekend too for Fan Expo. Lockjaw number 2 should be coming out, but Lockjaw's got like so many spin-offs right now. There's 3 of like the Campfire Tales, like that one. Yeah. We have the double feature, which is just like 2 shorts that I did that were like more adult themed, like more horror-ish.
for anybody who's watching live or wants to check this out later? This is some pretty cool artwork, man.
Out of curiosity, are you do you publish also like any digital comics at all, like on Comixology or Webtoons or something like that?
So right now they're all available digitally on our website. We are going to Comixology. It's just waiting for their approval. So there's like a background thing that they have to do. But then after that, and then we have like the last Paletero on the block. That one's fun. We have another one of that coming out relatively soon. It's just getting there for that one. Yeah.
Nice.
And then this one we did through Kickstarter, Lucha Forever. So we were able to raise like $6,000 to get that one made.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, that was a bigger book. That was our first like 32-page book.
Now, what's this one about? Obviously, he looks like he's taking on aliens.
Yeah, so that one is
He's kind from outer space, though.
He's
he's
an alien himself.
he's a former pro wrestler, like a Hulk Hogan type, who wanted to make that turn into acting, but it never panned out. So like he moves from Mexico to the U.S. to try to be like a series. Like in his head, he's Sylvester Stallone, and there's a lot of references to Stallone movies in there. So he comes here, he gets like bit roles. He's like the Bond villain, stuff like that, but he never gets to be the star. So little by little, he's selling all of his memorabilia till all he has left is his mask.
Okay.
On the day he's going to sell it, all hope is lost. He gets a call back for the audition we see him do.
Yeah.
And they're like, come back and read one more time, because maybe. So he holds onto his mask right before he's about to get there. Aliens.
Oh,
So
shit.
then it's him on the ship trying to find his family, and aboard the ship is like this dying alien being thing, but it's a Quetzalcoatl.
Oh shit.
So I
Okay.
put him in there. Like what happened to the gods is these aliens come early on and they remove them. So if the powerful things aren't there to protect the people, people will do what people do, and that's how we end up here, relatively defenseless. So they're
they
able to
remove
come
that
back.
guy.
Yeah. So he ends up making a deal with the god. The god lives in his mask. He puts it on. Now he's got like Green Lantern style powers.
Gotcha.
But it's not even about what he can do with his powers, because like we just see him like DDT things and like beat him up, stuff like that. It's about him still wanting to be the actor, the star. He doesn't want the responsibility of like holding things down. He just wants to be like Guillermo Diaz, the guy that Hollywood loves. But it's not about that. It's about him having to be a father of 2 kids, all that stuff.
That's,
Real life problems.
Yeah.
Yeah. You should make one about a white Mexican who has a problem getting a tan and his melanin is very low. And only through the powers of the sun that he develops his powers. That's me.
That'll be my son's story to write. Yeah, my wife's white, so my son's like real light. So every time we go outside, she's like sunscreen him. I was like, "Do we need it though? We're gonna be outside for like an hour." She's like, "Yeah."
Yeah. Yeah. That's the story of my life, man. It's very difficult. Well, I mean, these are awesome, dude. Like, I guess, how do you market this and like, I know you got the barcodes and everything like that, but how do you go about marketing and trying to get a broader audience to that? Like, I know you're doing a couple of shows. And
Yeah. So right now, mostly touring, doing shows, getting them into people's hands to read it. Because the most powerful thing in any kind of, like when I started doing wedding photography, I would like post on Facebook, stuff like that, but you're really just kind of circling your friends. It was the callbacks from like other people's families. So like, hey, you did my cousin's wedding. It's my turn. You want to do it? So with this, it's getting them into people's hands so that way I can build a fan base to kind of keep it going. And it's working a little bit. Like people are now, like some guy came up to me at the last convention show I did. He's like, oh, my buddy recommended it, so I wanted to come check it out.
Nice.
I was like, oh, that's a cool feeling that people are kind of talking about it, even if it's in small groups. Just trying to build the audience that way. But once I get the barcodes put on, then I'm going to be going like comic book shop to comic book shop. But they want to make sure you got issue like 2 and 3 and 4 ready to go. And that's expensive. So it's like getting it that way. And I keep coming up with new ideas and wanting to get like the first issues out just so I can show like diversity in my books. Like they're not all like superheroes. They're not all monsters.
Right.
There's different stuff to them.
Gotcha.
And you do all the like the putting it out there, the IG, the
Everything is me, yeah. So anytime you see Avina Comics anywhere, it just I'm behind it, yeah.
That's pretty dope.
huge load.
Yeah, that's a lot.
So were you always a comic book fan?
I was. So the first comic I ever got was a Simpsons comic. It was the first issue of Bartman.
Nice.
So my dad was a trucker, so he would take me like to do routes, and we stopped at a 7-Eleven and they had the comic spinner. So it was there, and I was like, I know the Simpsons, so I like grabbed Bartman. I was reading it, and I was a like real shitty reader when I was a kid, but comics didn't affect me. So I read it, and then from there we just started going to comic shops, and I would just pick up books and stuff.
Nice.
Yeah.
This guy's got a pretty good collection.
Yeah, Marvel, DC, Silver Age,
Nice.
Bronze Age.
I sold all of my stuff to start these. So I had like the first appearance of Penguin, Poison Ivy, Scarecrow. I had I got it signed by Stan Lee. It was the first appearance of Silver Surfer. And then Galactus. I sold them both to do. The only ones I kept. So when I first even like was in college, I met Neil Adams and we sat at a table together for like 20 minutes because like all these guys were coming up with stacks. Like, can you sign it? And he was just sitting there like he didn't even look at him. He was just signing it. But when I went up to him, I was like, can you make it out to John? And it was like the first appearance of Man-Bat because I love Man-Bat.
Yeah.
So he signed it and he was just like, well, come sit down. He's like, you're not going to sell this. So I know you're not trying to make money off me. So I just sat there and we just talked comics, talked books. It was awesome. So I kept that one because like I love Neil Adams for that. And
Yeah.
like, he passed away recently. So it's like framed above my desk. And then I have, because I'm a huge Teen Titans guy.
Yeah.
I have George Perez and Marv Wolfman's signature on Teen Titans #1
Nice.
above my desk. But I sold everything else that I have. Like I had the first Hellblazer, some Swamp Things that were older. Got rid of all of them.
So you're a DC guy.
Mostly DC. Yeah,
yeah.
I got when I started, I was huge into Batman because like the animated series and stuff. So Batman had like a stranglehold on me.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I just went full DC for everything, and then started getting more into Marvel and stuff. But DC was my boat.
Yeah, for me it's Marvel or it's DC, but it's heavy Batman, Silver Age Batman. I got Batman 227, which is the Neil Adams cover.
Yeah.
That one I love that cover the most right now. And then I just picked up the first appearance of what's his name? I'm drawing a blank. The alligator Killer Croc.
Killer Croc.
Yeah,
I had that one.
I got the first appearance of Killer Croc.
And so where you just see him in the trench coat, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. And then I got I just picked up. I'm a big X-Men guy too. So
Okay.
I thought, X-Men 50 first more second appearance of Polaris.
Okay.
So like I got a bunch of those. And
Nice.
Like I've been really going into the Silver Age stuff. But
Yeah.
what's your opinion on like today's realm of comic book buying through like the apps and all that stuff and all the FOMO and speculation that is thrown out there and getting people to like hype up and purchase books? What do you think about all that?
So I think part of it is the company's leaning into it for the marketing of it, right? Because like Spider Boy, if he came out normally without the hype, nobody would have cared. It would
Exactly.
have just been another kid. But because everyone's coming off of like, well, I have the first mile, so like that's huge. I need this kid for when he comes out in one of the movies, the value's gonna go up.
Right.
And that drives me nuts.
Yeah, I hate
because
that.
I'm still subbed to a bunch of stuff. So like if I go into my shop and I'm like, oh, you got an alternative cover, like, yeah, I'll take like because I love variants. I was like, I'll take the variant. And then they're like, well, we can only sell you either the variant or the regular one because everyone's buying these out. And it reminds me of like in the 90s when people would just go and just buy like all the bagged copies of like the Death of Superman and just ran the value to the ground.
Yeah.
That's going to happen again. And
Yeah.
that's going to suck.
Yeah, and that a lot of that's more of the modern age stuff.
Yeah.
That's coming out, right? Yeah, and that's why I started off with modern, and I started getting back into it like right around the pandemic because everybody was home.
Yeah.
And so I started on that Whatnot app, and then like I was looking at the conventions, and there, it was Battle Beast or it was Hail Crow King and all these other guys, all these different variants that were popping up. Dude, they were selling for like hundreds of dollars,
Yeah.
and then you go back and you look at it, it's like worth nothing now. And it's like it wasn't for the resale value; it was more because you're hyped up on this this book. It's like, oh shit, this book is dope, right? And everybody's jumping in on it, and you don't want to lose it, and you think there's scarcity behind it. And then you realize, no, I was the only one that was scared of losing it. There was no scarcity behind the book itself. So,
Now you hear
It's
about the CGC, the graded
Oh.
comics, where they're like they're forfeit, like no, not for what is it?
counterfeit.
Counterfeiting
Yeah.
the covers and the slabs and all that.
Yeah, so I got a cousin who just got into slabs, and I told him, I was like, buy the issues that you care about. Like, he's a big X-Men guy, so I was like, the first Juggernaut, absolutely get it slabbed, put it up. I was like, but buy it normal first, read it. Like, read it for you. Because there's nothing like opening one of those Silver Age comics. You got the smell of the paper, you got all that.
Yep.
And then you actually read his first appearance the way it was meant to be.
Yeah.
And then get it slabbed. Because if you're buying for you, do it, put it up on your wall, let it sit, and eventually if you got to sell it or if you want to sell it to give it to like the next guy, that's fine. But if you're like going to a comic convention with like thousands of dollars and you're just buying it to sit on them to flip them, you're not really a fan at that point.
Right.
You're just like a reseller. You're just a
you're trying to
collector.
make money.
Yeah, and that's a lot of that you see too, because then like in my DMs for the Instagram are just like artists trying to get work or people trying to sell me comics. And I'm like, I'm not here to buy comics. I'm here to make comics. And they're like, but I got like Magneto's first appearance. I'm like, hey, dude, that's cool, man. I don't want it. Like, yeah. And they're like, but it's great. And I'm like, that's cool.
Yeah.
I can't use that. But there's a lot
You're
of
in
that.
You're into it for the purest form of it.
Yeah.
And that's the enjoyment of making a story, telling a story, representing your culture with no monetary, like obviously you want to make money at some point.
Yeah.
But not for the purposes that other people are doing it, right? You're trying to enjoy your craft a little bit here.
Yeah. There's a guy named Cullen Bunn who writes a bunch of like horror comics for Image and stuff.
Yeah.
And he actually got his start writing a Western that's a horror thing. So I got talking to him online and stuff. And he told me, he's like, if you're getting into comics to make money, get any other job. He's like,
Yeah.
because you won't make money right away. And who knows how much you'll make once it gets started. He's like, but if you're doing it because you need to tell this story, he's like, then it's a job worth having.
Yeah.
So because of that, I was like, yeah, I didn't want to do this to like well, hopefully the like Lucha Forever movie comes out in like a year and then I break even. I was like, no, it's if something ever comes from this, that's awesome. But mostly it's for me to tell these stories because they're bugging me and I need to share them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
That's awesome, dude.
When did you decide, like, okay, I'm gonna write comics one day?
My son was born, and then that's why I started panicking because I was just like, all right, well, I'm just gonna work till I die. And then I remember when I was with my dad on his truck routes when I was little, he's like, this is why you got to stay in school so that way you're not delivering every day like I am. And then I was just going to work, and then when I work at the funeral home, I'm there at 4:30 in the morning till like 2 or 3 in the afternoon. So it's almost like 12-hour shifts every day. Come home, I'm tired. I got to edit photos or videos for like the things I did over the weekend. And then 7 o'clock, be dead and do all that stuff. And I was like, oh, that doesn't work for me.
Yeah.
I was like, I gotta do something. I gotta show him that there's more than just like going out there working, coming home, and then just like that's it. So I had to break that cycle a little bit. And then Scott Snyder, who does Batman and stuff, or
Yeah.
did Batman,
Yeah.
started a writing class in 2020. And he was just like, well, sign up. If you do like the highest tier on the thing, you get 5 minutes to pitch me a book. So I pitched him Lockjaw and Pistoletto.
Yeah.
And he was like, yeah, there's something there. And then he read Cinema Muerte, and he's going to write like a little blurb for us for
Oh,
it.
nice.
Because he was
That's
like, this
awesome.
is cool. He's like, this is something I can get into. And I was like, all right. Like, that's the one that I wrote for me specifically. The character's name is John.
Yeah.
The girl's name is Emily, which is my wife's name. And Chris is my best friend, and he's in there too. Because that was a movie I wrote for college that we were supposed to star in.
Oh, nice.
That the budget fell through. So I was like sitting on it. I was like, oh, I'll just make it a comic now. And that's the one that people pick up, and they're like, this surprised me. I like it. And I was like, sweet.
That's
Yeah.
awesome, dude.
Yeah.
That's a big deal right there.
Yeah.
I feel like you're gonna have a lot of success with this. I really do.
I'm
Like,
hoping.
I'm looking at it and I'm like,
Yeah,
Yeah.
man, it's well put together, man.
Thank you. That Balatero one is fun because like I would see them everywhere, and there's like a lot of reports like them getting jumped now,
Yeah.
and like all that social media stuff. So I was like, well, I want to write one for like the original like Mexican icon in like the neighborhood. Like you saw him walk by, your day was gonna be made. So I was like, that's what I need to tell. It's like that guy's story, and there's not like a Mexican American folk hero. Like we don't have that. And I wanted him to be that. So the paletero in here isn't going to look like the paletero in the next issue because they're always going to different in ages. Because I want to show like that Mexicans don't stop working, especially like the paletero. They always just seem to get older, and that's what we're going to see with him.
that's cool.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
Now, are these all part of the same universe?
different. So there's no like crossover between any of them. They all have like offshoots and spinoffs and stuff, but I don't plan to like cross them over really. Or anything like there's references to each other in all of them. So in some of them, like in the background, you see like a Lockjaw poster. In Americana, they're sitting at a table talking, and the dad's like, "Oh, I got these comics," and the son's like, "Oh, Lockjaw and Pistoletto." He's like, "Yeah, I found those." So I'll write my references in there,
nice.
and even the comic book shop in I think Lucha Forever, you see it get blown up. So there's like
Oh,
references
okay.
to that and
Little
each
Easter
one.
eggs.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
That's really cool, man. Not bad.
So I used to working on like more characters and kind of
So we just announced it yesterday on that Threads app, I think it is, that new Instagram.
Oh, yeah.
Thing.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm trying to like get that ball rolling. So on that one, we announced one called Dead Man's Marquee, and it's basically I didn't know this growing up, but the Zorro is based on a real person, like his life story. But it's a guy named like Joaquin, and it's like his brother gets killed because it's right after like the Mexican American War. His brother gets killed, his wife gets killed, and this guy's left with nothing. So he goes on like a murdering rampage, killing Texans. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. I was like, well, how did they get Zorro from that? So they changed him from a Mexican to a Spanish guy. And instead of being like a poor farmer, he's like a rich guy who like finesses
Batman.
with the sword. Yeah. And I was like, well, they kind of just like took everything away from him, stripped down his tragedy, and he just fights the Mexican government, who in real life didn't do anything to him. It was like the U.S.
Right.
But I was like, oh, that kind of sucks. So in this story, it's that happens, but the guy's not dead. And now it's the premiere for like the first Zorro movie, and he's there for revenge. So it's like this noir set in the 20s, but it's brutal. Like, yeah, that one's going to be fun.
Your stories give me Quentin Tarantino kind of like vibes, the way they're structured and the way you're describing them.
That's the best compliment I've ever gotten. Thank you. I was a movie guy. Like I'm a huge movie guy. Like coming down, I saw your posters and stuff. I'm like, oh, this is legit. Like I like this. But like for me, Guillermo del Toro is like one of my favorite directors. That's why all my stuff has like monsters or horror in it.
Yeah.
And then Kevin Smith's a big inspiration,
Okay.
and
yeah.
Quentin Tarantino and stuff like that.
Oh,
too.
okay,
So
cool. Yeah,
the
that's really
action,
cool from that,
the dialogue in a lot of them is real quippy, real back and forth, because that's how I talk with my friends, just like reference. So in this, I was just like, all right, well, like tone it down, and then I'm just like writing it in. And the last spot that on the wall is a Desperado poster, because I'm like, Robert Rodriguez is like a hero of mine, so I'm gonna put him in here too.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the vibe I get looking at them and the way you're describing them and the references and the way they're all, they're in each other's books, but they're not part of the same universe.
Yeah.
It's kind of like the movies a little bit when you watch a Quentin Tarantino movie.
Yeah.
They reference a movie, but it's not part of that world.
Yeah.
That's why I get that vibe from that.
Someone on Instagram wrote in one of the, because I do like these little ad videos on Lockjaw. They're like, well, this is just a Robert Rodriguez movie. And I was like, tell him that. Like,
Yeah.
let him read it then. Like, yeah, if this is for him, then send it to him if you know him.
Yeah.
Please send it to him so that way I can get some more recognition over here.
Yeah, if he's looking to adopt somebody, like,
Yeah,
if he needs
yeah.
a kid, I'll do it.
With the Lucha Forever and him fighting the aliens, how do you feel about the current state of all this alien stuff we're talking about now lately?
That's a good question.
If it was like 15 years ago, I would be like doomsday prepping. At this point, I'm just like, all right, where can I take my kid and just be safe? So I'm just going to get a boat filled with a bunch of soil and just like live out at sea. I don't know how to sail, but I'll figure it out.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
it's
yeah.
just like, if things go sideways, like it can't keep getting worse. So, I mean, it could. But at this point, I'm just like, if it's going to happen, let it happen. I don't want it to be like a season-long thing that I got to wait to get to the end of. Like, just get to the dragons already, kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I think you see what happened in Las Vegas with
No,
that thing
Las
that
Vegas.
Oh yeah, that the UFO crash landing.
crashed. He's a
That
big
family-
alien guy. I don't know why he's not jumping all over this right now.
That family that they said they saw it in their backyard, just outside their backyard.
When did this happen?
Oh, you
May.
really-
That happened in May.
Yeah, it happened in May, and
Or April.
it's been discussed over the last month pretty frequently, maybe a month and a half.
That it landed in their backyard?
Yeah, so basically there was a call made to the Las Vegas PD, and they said that they were getting calls about there was something in someone's backyard, but they have body cam footage of a cop responding to a different call,
Yeah.
and he sees this green like light flying over the sky, and then a few minutes later they say, "Hey, we got this call. Something's in the backyard of somebody's house." They're saying it's an alien or it doesn't look human. And the guy goes up there and he's like, if you watch the video, he says like, I'm a little nervous right now. I'm like legit kind of freaking out. He goes up there and he talks to the family.
Yeah,
The cop was. And then he goes up and he talks to the family. And then they're like, yeah, I mean, it's like 10 feet tall. We couldn't really see it. We were a little stuck and like looking at it and all that. But then when they go to the backyard to see where it's at, the footage goes away. But since then, like, there's been all these other confirmations of UFOs coming
Yeah,
around.
that hearing, the congressional hearing, just
With David Grush and all that stuff. And but that in particular event just kind of like it was fairly vague leading up to the point of where they were going into the backyard, and then the family went really quiet after a few weeks. And you would think it would be a little bit more of a big deal.
Yeah.
So it's either they were lying, but then the cops kind of like freaking out too in the video.
Oh, yeah.
So then they're like,
or
well,
they intervened.
or something intervened,
Yeah.
someone or something intervened to like kind of keep it hush.
Would you see, like, now that people are talking more because of Oppenheimer and stuff about, like, World War II, like Operation Paperclip, where they brought, like, the Nazis over and all that stuff. But I guess the area that they bought the land for was the area that one of the Nazi scientists that built, like, the first rockets to send us to space. That's where he was working on, like, the original, like, stealth bombers, because Germany was already working on them. Then we got a hold of this guy and we started building it. But there was, like, like, now that the documents are unclassified or whatever, that's where they crash. And it's, like, feet away from, like, where the rock, like, landing happened and all that stuff. So I think a lot of it is just kind of, like, we don't want to feel like we're alone because we can't be the only things this messed up. But also, it's numerically, I feel like it's impossible that we're the only ones.
Yeah, there's just no way.
There's just no way. But also, how boring are we if they were to come here? They'd be like, oh, well, we're going to come take them over. We're not exactly like the best builders. Like, bridges are collapsing like everywhere. Things are constantly going wrong. If they're going to use us for labor, they kind of miss like the peak window of people being in health, like the 50s maybe. That would have
Yeah.
been better. But now if they're trying to make me build something, be like, dude, just vaporize me.
Not to mention cooperation among us is not exactly easy. So
No.
we could be easily conquered, but as far as like coordinating us, it's just not.
Well, and that's part of the plot in Lucha Forever. Is,
Not my slave master.
no, yeah, basically, yeah, it's the Simpsons thing of like, well, I voted for Kang instead of Kodos. In Lucha Forever, when the aliens come, like I'm dumping exposition on it, but the Quetzalcoatl or whatever is telling them like, oh, they're global conquistadors. Like they just go, they remove the most valuable resources that they have, and they're like, it's just people. They're removing the people because they need the people to build the weapons to help them keep going forward. He was like, there's nothing really on this planet left for them but you guys, and that's why they're only taking you guys. So I wrote that kind of in there, but like the more I think about, well, why would an alien want to come here? It's either to like as a show for their version of National Geographic, like look how uncivilized these people are, and this is crazy. They're still killing each other. Or it's going to be like, well, we're coming for the people, but we're only going to come for a few select people because this planet has a deadline and it's about to expire, and we got like a global zoo somewhere to drop them into.
The
Yeah, I
rapture.
can see that.
Yeah.
I can
Would
see
it
that.
be a crazy idea if we were just an ant farm for some alien race that they're just staring at us and just observing us the entire time?
It would be crazy.
I would believe that. Like, we're just some reality show. I think, like, South Park and stuff have to kind of play with that idea, but I would believe that. We're just, like, entertainment for somebody. It was a Jimmy Neutron episode, I think.
Really?
Where it's just that. Where it's just like, yeah, we're here to entertain. Which I could do. Like, if they're picking me up to take me somewhere else, like, bring my family, of course. But, like,
Right.
yeah, I'll tell jokes. Like, I'll come do that.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's more of a we need to preserve this the way we would preserve some animals in the rainforest type of scenario.
Yeah.
Like they're gonna kill themselves, so we kind of gotta make them like see or at least help them along the way to keep them going.
No one comes here,
They're not
sees
fucking
the...
enough.
Yeah, that's going down too.
Yeah, this anime thing's really ruining their breeding process. So we gotta...
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah, no more Attack on Titan. And One Piece has to end in order for this to get fixed. So
Jesus, yeah, that's it's crazy, man. The alien situation. That's
I start looking into it, and then I start to freak myself out, and then I'm just like, I'm gonna backtrack. Like I read a lot of like horror story stuff, like people on the road and they see like kids with white eyes, and I'm like, I grew up with the Yoda on it. Like I'm used to being scared. But like aliens, I'm like, I don't really got an answer. I don't have a jet. I don't have a plan.
no, there's no plan.
Yeah.
What could we do?
Nothing. You just fucking get abducted and anally probed, and
Take me.
that's your life right there. That's your new life. So
But I don't have to go to work, so like,
no,
yeah, I get to
least.
sleep in maybe.
yeah, I don't. We wouldn't survive in any other atmosphere. At least I don't think so, unless they know of one that we could survive, and they were going all the way over there.
We wouldn't make it past travel. Like all
No,
of us
there's no
together
way.
on one like metal ship,
Yeah.
we'd kill each other. Yeah,
I hope they have a bathroom.
and like a normal one.
Yeah,
Yeah, like if the stall door is this much open on like an alien ship where someone could walk by and see me, I wouldn't care that I was about to get like killed somewhere. I'd be like, oh, just end it now. Like someone made eye contact with me while I was taking a shit. This is my life's over.
All of this technology you alien bastards have, and you still can't close the gap on the stall doors.
Right?
plumbing on this ship sucks.
Yeah,
Fucking damn
It's
it.
fucking clogging up.
that's the secret to intergalactic
me.
space travel is like low flow toilets.
There you go.
Yeah, we've hit a new low on this podcast. We've gone to space plumbing,
That's what I was promised in the email.
and we
promise-
will deliver.
They promised me flying cars and good plumbing.
It's awesome.
So what's the next book you got coming out? Like what's in the horizon for you?
Yeah, so I got that Dead Man's Marquee. I have a line of kids books that I'm working on.
Okay.
So it's about a brother and sister trying to find their missing older brother. It's like the show Supernatural. They're trying to find like the missing family member, but it's going like it's just rhymes. So the first one's called Apparitions in Appalachia. Then
Okay.
there's going to be like Banshees in Baltimore, stuff like that. And we're just going to work our way down. And it's just going to be the kids finding clues and getting closer and closer to finding their brother. And then when I hit like book 50 or the 50th state or whatever, then that's when it'll kind of end. But right now we're working on that. And they're short. They're like 10, 12 pages. But it's for kids. So I'm doing like a kids line of books too.
That's cool.
Yeah.
There's good money in that. Kids' books? Yeah.
Yeah, I got one right now that hopefully will be done by November called The Mighty Gamatos, and it's about a boy whose dad's terminally ill. So he finds under his family's like ofrenda a portal to like the Mayan underworld. So he goes down there dressed in like a cosplay version of Gamatos, like the Mayan god, the bat. And he goes down there, he runs into like another boy, and basically they solve these little puzzles and end up playing that game where you have to hit the ball with your hip.
Yeah.
It's like
Okay,
the
yeah,
hole.
yeah.
Against the actual version of Gamatos, because Gamatos is there, and he's like, no, like, I'm the god. And they look at him, they look at the boy, and they're like, we can't tell the difference. Like, you guys are going to have to play this out. So it's Gamatos and this, like, undead army of conquistadors versus the boy and, like, the family of, like, this native kid.
awesome.
And they have to play their way out.
Badass.
Do they win?
Yeah, and then the boy that's there is the spirit of his dad because the dad's in a coma. So the dad's like, I've been trying to find my way out of here. He's like, but when I saw you, I waited so that way I can come back with you.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
Nice.
That's pretty good.
yeah.
Let's hope that they win. They should win. Otherwise, it's going to be bad news bears for those kids. Okay.
Yeah.
With comic books, man, what do you think of like all the like? You think local LCSs are in trouble, like closing down, and or you think everything's going to go back like just digitally and purchasing online? Or
I
what do you
think
of that?
it's going to be a big boom for indie creators because you see it with like Image titles, Dark Horse titles, stuff like that. Like those still sell better numbers. I think Marvel and DC are kind of just holding everyone at a standstill because they don't know what people want yet. Like everyone's like, oh, I want something grittier, I want something darker, and then you get it and they're like, well, I miss like the campiness of like the 60s or that stuff. They can't win.
Yeah.
And they keep doing like big events and big events keep failing. And everyone just kind of wants like that next big character to come out so they can rush out and buy it. So I think for Marvel and DC, they're going to have to figure out their own thing and maybe look to hire like those indie creators to like take a run at it for a hot minute and just do something new. Like let Peter Parker be happy, let him be married, stop doing like the MJ won't they? Like let him just be in a relationship, see how that goes because we haven't done that for a long time yet. Do something like that or like Batman get back to doing like noir style stories like not The Killing Joke, what am I thinking of?
The Long Halloween.
Long Halloween, stuff like that. Like bring him back to like his roots of those kind of stories. And
He's
I
an
think-
actual detective.
yeah, because right now a lot of it's just like, oh, I found a hair, I'm gonna put it into like this giant machine. It's gonna tell me exactly where I need to go. Then it's a fight, and then it's over.
Yeah.
Like slow it down a bit. But I think it's that they have to figure out what each character actually means, represents, and do that, and then just stop changing stuff. Like, well, who's gonna be the new Daredevil? And it's like Elektra or something like that. I'm just like, it's a gimmick. We know it's gonna go back. Stop doing it.
Yeah.
So
But-
do you think that's what they did with the latest Batman, where they just kind of slowed things down and just kind of made him more of a detective rather than just a fighter the entire time?
For the movie?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that worked really well because like it kept me kind of hooked, like figuring it out. Like I knew because of all the marketing that it was like Riddler or whatever, but I didn't know what his plan was, and I didn't know what it was going to be. And I think a problem with Batman movies is they try to like Easter egg little characters in there or like set up for the next one. Like I didn't need the Joker in it.
Yeah.
To tell me eventually we were going to get another live action Joker because now that's all I'm waiting for. It's just like, well, tell me a really good Riddler story.
Yeah.
And then get me out of it. But I like that they were dropping like the Hush thing because I kept waiting for it to pivot and be like, oh no, that's going to be Thomas Elliot and not the Riddler. But it stayed that way. So I was like, okay, this is fine.
Yeah.
But like do something like give me a live action Hush. And they can twist it however they want to, whatever they want with it. But don't be afraid to like give me Mr. Freeze, like Ray Gun freeze it. Like if you can do it well, then do it. You don't have to make every villain just like a guy in a shirt kind of a thing. Like
Yeah.
yeah.
They
A
said
proper
they-
Mr. Freeze would be awesome.
Yeah.
It would
Yeah.
be sweet.
Matt Reeves said he was going to be pushing the envelope for the next one too,
For making it more
for the next Batman movie.
that would be cool because that's
He's like he's going to push it more
yeah.
towards the more like fantastical kind of.
Yeah, because I know like the George Clooney and stuff kind of ruined it all, but even then, at least we got to see it. Like I got to
Right.
see Mr. Freeze do his thing.
I don't know. George Clooney was the best Batman in my opinion.
Yeah.
Silence.
You want to lose your job. Don't you?
I remember seeing it and walking out of the theater and being like, okay, that was cool because I had like all the action figures for it and stuff at the time. And then like I watched it again as an adult and I was like, this feels real. Like I felt worried for Batgirl being there. I was like, everyone just like staring at her.
Worried
Yeah.
for Batman.
Yeah.
Do you think Marvel's giving more light to like smaller characters like Moon Knight and Black Panther, Ant-Man, and all that other stuff? Because like honestly, I'll admit like I wasn't really a big comic book guy in the past. Some of the characters I have heard of, but I don't remember like them being wildly popular, like Captain America, Iron Man, those such characters, Spider-Man, and all that. Like, do you think Marvel's like giving a little more light to those guys?
Yeah, and I think that's gonna work for them because it's somebody that like the audience can grow with. Like we got no expectations. Like even with Moon Knight, I was like, okay, Oscar Isaac, cool. I was like, I like Oscar Isaac. I kind of know Moon Knight. He's like the supernatural Deadpool. Fine, like I'm in. Then I saw the show and I was like, oh, I want another one of this. Like this was cool. Like I like this. It was funny. It had supernatural stuff to it. Like Werewolf by Night, I liked because I was like, oh, that doesn't feel like Marvel. That just feels like a comic book they just dropped on the screen.
Right.
I was like, I want that. I want it to feel like that.
That
like,
was nice. I like that one a lot.
yeah, like that Doctor Strange movie I didn't really care for, the new one, Multiverse of Madness.
Yeah, it wasn't great.
Yeah, it just like it had too much going on for it where I was just like,
Yeah.
you could do every time they're like multiverse jumping, I was like, stop staying somewhere too long. Like keep going.
Yeah, that's kind of how I felt about the Multiverse of Madness too. I just kind of walked away from it, just kind of like it was okay.
Yeah.
Great. It wasn't as great as the first one, but it was okay.
I don't think the Doctor Strange series in general has been that great, to be honest.
Well, the first one was great. I liked
First one
It was okay, but I feel like
I thought
you
it was
know,
great.
I feel like he's been taking a backseat to like larger scale things. It's not one story just centralized on.
Christopher Cumberbatch.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think Marvel should lean into like some of the smaller characters because you could do fun stuff with it because no one knows. Like I think one of the best things to happen in comics was Grant Morrison's Animal Man. Animal Man was just like a B-list character no one cared about, and they gave it to Grant Morrison, and he made it like this like grand epic book thing that I love. But it came out of nowhere. So I think if you let the right creatives take something small and give it a shot, like James Gunn and Guardians, like no one cared about Guardians before then.
Right.
Now it's a household name. Like give them the character that they love and let them actually make a real story of it. Because like for the new Ant-Man, I felt like this would be a really cool Fantastic Four movie if you move it out of like the small realm and make it like a planet or something, and
Yeah,
have
that would
them
make-
solve that problem. Cool, that made sense to me. Ant-Man being here felt like, well, he's a real like B background character to help out in a situation. I don't know if he's the guy for this, and it felt like more like, look what we can do with CGI, and we have all like these design things from like Star Wars that we're putting in here. It just felt like that, but I think if Marvel can put together smaller characters, it'll work. I think DC is going to do a big push for that kind of stuff right now because they're talking about like Shade or like Frankenstein Shade and all that stuff. It could work. I think that's probably going to be the best bet because I think we're all burnt out on like the big guys.
yeah, I'm done seeing them.
Yeah.
Like it's just
What's-
the same stuff.
What's been your favorite like comic book movie, and why is it Watchmen?
I liked Watchmen. I remember thinking like I like these actors more than I like the characters while reading Watchmen because reading Watchmen I was like all these people are terrible people except for Silk Spectre.
Yeah,
I was like everyone
meant
else
to
in
be.
this sucks and I was like
They're awful.
awful people. But even watching I was like all right. And then there's something weird because when you're reading Dr. Fate, right? No, not Dr. Fate. What's his name? Dr. Manhattan. When you're reading him on paper, he seems mysterious and kind of like out there. But when you're watching him, like on paper, he seems like he's a guy thinking bigger than me. And it reads across on paper better. But on screen, seeing him, I was like, this is just like, he's just kind of emo. He's
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
real sad. I'm like,
Yeah.
you have a hot wife, man. Like, be happy.
Yeah,
And he's like, no, I can see everything everywhere at once. I was like, so you know she loves you in every state of existence. Just fucking chill out.
Right.
But that's like his curse or whatever. I was like, all right, I get it.
I just like how he satisfied her with like multiple versions of himself because he was too busy doing something
Yeah.
else. And then she got all pissed off. It was like, dude, I'm just trying to show you a good time and multitask. at the
Yeah,
same time.
well,
Imagine getting bukakied by the same guy.
yeah. But then you don't have to feel bad about it because at
How
least
about
it's
you
like,
imagine it, Hans?
I am
You
imagining it. I already did.
it's got to be in one version of the extended cuts. There's like 37 of them. At this point. Yeah, and it's like what's the name? The Zack Snyder cuts of everything that people keep asking for.
Yeah.
I was like, if it got cut for a reason, guys. Like,
Yeah, I don't need to see the
I don't need to
uncovered.
see it. Yeah. Oh, there's like 30 seconds extra footage of like him moving a thing. Like for the movie Alien, they do that. Like every couple of years, it's like we added 14 more seconds of like. I was like, fine, give it to me, but damn, stop. Like I'm running out of room.
I never know what changed.
Very little.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I never know what changed.
Yeah.
So, so what is your favorite movie then?
I mean, it's gonna sound real hipstery, but I swear it's real. The original Superman movie.
Okay.
Because I'm a huge like Richard Donner. Like he wrote a set of Superman comics with Jeff Johns, and I love those. But like that Superman movie was simple. It was guy has got to solve a problem, and hope is the answer. Like that simple, clear message. I'll watch that movie again and again because it does get. And then you hear the music. Like they actually cared about the music. They cared about the script.
Just to clarify, you're not talking about Christopher Reeves?
Christopher Reeves.
Okay.
Yeah, that original one. Like that's what I like because like you could feel them caring about the character. They're like, well, this is a character for kids, but there's like a message of hope here. And when you hear him take off and you like opens the thing, like there was just it was made with care and love, and that works so well. And I don't think you really got that except for in small moments in maybe like Endgame, like when he's petting Rocket. Or when Nebula's petting Rocket, like those little moments, that's art in the movies. And everything else is it just feels like filler or joke punchline kind of a thing.
Yeah.
Or callback. And that Superman movie, like if you go back and rewatch it and watch it with your kids, watch their faces because they're going to be bored at first because they're going to be like, this doesn't hold up. But when
This movie looks old.
yeah, they'd be like, who's that guy? I'm going to be like, oh my God. But like, it's that movie is just what superheroes should be. You should be walking away with it, not just like, oh my God, like he has like these unbreakable powers and I wonder who could stop Thanos or whatever. It's just Superman will go to any length to save the kids or save the people.
Yeah.
And that's what matters. Like you get real close to that with like the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man, but throughout all of it, it's always about MJ a little too much.
Yeah.
It's less about like New York and all that kind of stuff. So, but that Christopher Reeve Superman, maybe because it was like my first big superhero movie, but it's just like,
Same.
it's almost perfect on those lists.
Yeah, Spider-Man does simp over Mary Jane
A lot.
quite a bit.
Yeah.
A little too much.
Yeah, it's
I don't really care.
More
for
than
that.
I simp over Mary Jane.
what?
More than I simp over Mary Jane.
You're just coming at him. You're coming with him today, aren't you? Fucking George Clooney is Batman. What's wrong with you?
I mean, he was like my first
I wasn't talking
on-screen
about
Batman.
the character, by the way.
Yeah.
Yeah,
My first was the Michael Keaton.
Michael Keaton. Michael Keaton bugged me that he couldn't move his neck because I was just like, come at him from the sides, man.
I would have thought
He has good
that,
peripheral vision.
Yeah, that's part of
what
his
it was.
bat
Yeah,
thing in the
yeah.
suits.
speaking of which, did you watch The Flash?
No, I wanted to. Originally, I was like hyped on it. I was like, okay.
Same. So
I was like, this is going to be
yeah.
cool. And then
It was brutal.
people were showing like the clips of like the unfinished CGI. I was like, well, it's the premiere. Like, I'm sure they're like, no, this is like 2 weeks out, man. Like, this is it. And
It
then,
was awful.
yeah.
I saw the opening scene. And it was something about. I saw a bootleg, but it was something about the CGI babies being put in microwaves and all that other stuff. Just really turned me off.
Yeah.
And I just couldn't. I couldn't get through it. It was that was a hard watch for that brief 5-10 minutes. And it's even worse when it's in bootleg because the CG's already bad, and then you're getting a bootleg version.
Spanish
of
subtitles on the bottom,
yeah,
too.
it was Chinese subtitles,
Yeah.
but yeah.
Carlos kicked his TV.
Hindi.
Nah, I couldn't do it, man. So what would you? I know you talked about a character. What was it? Man Beast? Not Man Beast.
Animal Man?
Animal Man. What would you do differently in DC, or like what would you like to see? I know that was a Marvel character.
Yeah.
But what would you if they brought you on and they said, "Here's something creative for," we'll say Batman for now.
Yeah.
Fix this.
What would you do?
For Batman?
Yeah.
Yeah, so you bring it back to Thomas Wayne has issues, right? Like everyone's out to get Batman's dad. Like that's a constant reoccurring theme in the comics. Batman's dad wasn't that much older. Like our dads are still alive, so Batman's dad could have still been alive, which means Batman's dad's enemies could have still been alive.
Yeah.
So what happens to the people that hate Thomas Wayne, whose Playboy son is out there gallivanting around, not watching the company, right? Strip Batman of some of his stuff where he has to move it out of like Lucius Fox's stuff to somewhere else, right? Now we got like a Batman on the defensive because they're coming for Wayne Manor. So that's the fight that Batman can put on a massive fight. He has to be Bruce Wayne to do it. So we get a hardened Bruce Wayne who has to then lean on like Dick Grayson or like one of the Robins to start going out there and be the bigger hero in the city. And let him now take over.
Bruce Wayne.
He has to be Bruce Wayne and make the calls for the kids. And what happens when those calls go wrong? Because Batman knows how to fight Killer Croc in the sewers. But the new Robin is crazy, right? Like Damian Wayne's got a sword, he does too much. So what happens when he gets hurt and that was Batman's call? and we start to break Batman because the pressures of being Bruce Wayne, he can't have that duality anymore. So one of them's got to go. And that's what I want to see is what will it take from Bruce Wayne to become the parent and let someone else take over Gotham. And I want to push that agenda.
That's a pretty good one.
Yeah.
So Batman's more worried about the stockholders and the
He's got to be. Yeah, because if he's...
He never does that in any of the comics, I realized.
No, and like, because he's always like, oh, it'll fix itself. And then he comes up with like a last minute, like, well, we were able to do it because like we just released the new like kind of Tesla Bruce Wayne thing or whatever.
Yeah.
When did he have time to do that? Like, I get that he's Batman and he can kind of do anything, but I want the readers to feel like,
this motherfucker's dealing way too
much.
Yeah. Like
He never
struggling
cracks. Yeah,
No.
he never cracks. He just seems to handle it all.
yeah, because like the Nolan movies tried to do that a little bit where they were just like, oh, we're coming for like Wayne Corp, but I don't even know how he solved it. He just kind of came in and said like, well, I bought out your stock. And I was like, it feels like something people can do. I don't know how money works because I'm broke. But like, if that's something that they can do, cool, that'll solve my comic problem later on. But
Yeah.
like getting him there, make him sweat it out. Like force, like the Matt Reeves movie did, where they're like, well, you have to go up here, you have to be Bruce Wayne for a little bit. But he's like, I don't want to.
Yeah.
And like wipes off his eyeliner. Like, we'll do that, but less My Chemical Romance-y and just let him have to figure it out. Like I want to force Bruce Wayne into the spotlight so people are wondering where Batman is and now the kids have to do it. And that's like my Teen Titan pitch is that.
Yeah.
Because I want to do a Teen Titans where it's just like the Titans are San Francisco's heroes or whatever. Like they're the B team for when the Justice League goes down. If you're going to shoot for the top, you kind of want to make sure that when you get to them, like the next level is kind of already hurt. So let like a big Omega level villain take on the Teen Titans. And then when the Justice League gets there, it's already too late. And then we kind of rummage through and see who we can build from the Titans.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not a bad idea.
Yeah.
You like the idea of like the second generation of the heroes come up and step up to.
He's burnt down to the main guy, so he wants to make all the B characters to come up. So.
My Spider-Man pitch is an Aranya story, the Mexican Spider-Girl.
Yeah.
So it's basically she leaves New York because it's full of spider people. Like even my opening sequence is her webbing and Miles' webbing and someone else's webbing kind of gets stuck together. And they're like, I got it. And they all hit. And then someone makes like I call it shotgun joke.
Yeah.
And then she leaves this voice message for like Peter. And that's what we hear is her saying like, thank you for the opportunities, all this stuff. New York doesn't need me here. I got to go find out where I'm going to go. And because I'm from Chicago, she comes to Chicago. And then there's a Spider-Man villain named Tarantula who is just like a big Latin guy who just wore like a ski mask kind of thing. But he was like a big dude. So she's going to see him, know him from like Peter's case files and track him down. Turns out he's running like a reform school for like other guys that like fucked up and are rebuilding in her life. And she's like, well, this is the perfect place for me to do that too. So she's kind of shadowing him, learning to do that. He's getting set up for all these disappearances, all these armed robberies, all this stuff. Because one of the boys in his group falls back, because that always happens, into the wrong crowd. There's a guy out there that's collecting when Green Goblin throws his bombs and one of them doesn't go off. That guy gets it and he sells it. And when like Vulture's wings go into like police custody, this guy's taking it. All those kind of weapons, this guy has an arsenal of now. And he's selling them, and he's selling them in Chicago.
Oh, nice.
And it's her trying to do it, and Peter noticing like she left and all this Spider-Man villainy stuff is kind of going on. At the same time, she's trying to help these kids not fall into the trap of what is now right in front of them. Like you can buy Rhino's armor, but you have to work for this guy. But you can be Chicago's Rhino. That's power, that's money, that's all these opportunities. And now it's her responsibility to be Spider-Man here. Because she's just like, Peter, you have a whole team, you don't need me. But now it's just her. And she's like, there's strength in numbers and family.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was my
Good one.
Spider-Man pitch.
That would be a cool one.
Yeah.
I'd like to see that one.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Chicago.
Yeah.
We don't get near.
We don't get anybody.
No.
And like all of Marvel's set in like the real like world right kind of stuff. So I was like, why not give us somebody? We have like Avengers Midwest, which is just like
Yeah, it's not a.
it's not a good team.
No, it's not.
Yeah, every once in a while we get Squirrel Girl. So that's it. Yeah. Oh no, it's Great Lakes Avengers is who we got.
Yeah, we don't even get.
Yeah.
Great Lakes Avengers.
So they can cover states. Like other heroes have to cover a city specifically. But we get like they're in Michigan.
Tornadoes and
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
Natural disasters they cover. Yeah. I get it. It's kind of like this podcast. We're kind of like the Great Lakes Avengers. Well, I like your ideas, man. I hope those go come to fruition, man. We get to see some of that stuff.
Thank you.
Has anybody heard these pitches? Like anybody
Yeah,
that
these
would
are
a
trademark.
decision maker?
Nobody else can use them.
No, so one of my buddies works for the comic book store I used to work at. This guy Kyle Higgins would shop there. I didn't know who he was, and then Gates of Gotham came out, and he was writing with Scott Snyder. Then he took over Nightwing for the New 52. So he was doing that when I was going to film school. So I would just blow him up on like Twitter and text message because I got his number and stuff. So we would kind of talk. But he was like, have a pitch ready in case someone eventually calls you. He's like, they were not going to ask you because they want to buy it. They want to know that you have an idea. Then they'll give you one of their ideas and they need you to workshop it and make it. Like, that's how it usually works, he said. So that's what I do that anyway. Like when I'm driving home, I'm just like, oh, I wonder what like Raven would do in this situation. I would figure it out.
Nice.
I have an idea. We may be able to put him in touch with somebody.
Who?
Or somebody we've been talking to. I don't know. I won't put his name out right now.
Oh, okay.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you might. Yeah, yeah. He's a writer.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. And,
Yeah.
You know, we'll see. You know,
Writer, producer,
Comedian.
actor, comedian.
yeah.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So, yeah, we'll talk after the camera goes off and
Yeah.
see what's what, man. See if something pops up.
Yeah,
Put you in
but-
touch with somebody.
My buddy Colin just announced that he's doing Deadpool comics because he wrote for Marvel and DC before.
Yeah.
But he just got picked back up by Marvel for a couple of books. So I was like blowing out, like, dude, this is like you're back in, you're doing the thing. He was like, it's more fun to write your own.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's like, it's cool that you get to do stuff. He's like, but it's more fun if you write your own. I was like, oh, that's cool. I was like, I want to be that guy that has that problem though. Like, oh, I got to go write for DC now.
Right.
Oh my God.
Like, poor him.
Yeah, poor him. Just setting up my Beast Boy action figures.
Boo.
Do they get paid pretty good?
No.
No?
No. So you get paid like per page to write, but I think it's maybe like $100, $150 a page is like scale for writers. Like the bigger names get paid more, but the other ones get paid that. And then even the royalties are less. So it's like maybe 2 cents per comic sold type thing.
Oof.
It changed because Grant Morrison wrote Arkham Asylum.
Yeah, yeah.
And he had the biggest deal for it, where it was like $1 per book, and he sold $1 million on the first day. So after that, they took that away from everybody. They're like, well, we can't be paying that out again.
Wow.
Yeah. So, because even Stephen King did a book with Scott Snyder, and he was like, I want the lowest amount you'll pay a writer, so that way this guy can get paid more. So that way, like, Stephen King took a pay cut, so they could pay Scott Snyder more for the book because he created it. But Stephen King was on the book with him because they knew each other somehow. That's the kind of problem I need
Shout
to
out
have
to
too.
Stephen King, man.
Right?
That's a selfless act right there.
Yeah, a lot of my books have like Stephen King references in it too because like I'm like Stephen King slut. So
Yeah, dude. That's awesome.
yeah,
It is like one of my favorite characters, dude.
me too. They're in Americana that's coming out. There's a scene where it's a boy and the dad fishing, and they pull this lady out of the water, and the dad's getting killed in the background while the kid's trying to find the phone to call like the medics or whatever. And when he turns around, the lady is like full monstered out, and she's like, "Hello, Georgie."
Oh,
And
yeah.
then comes
Oh,
at him.
nice.
Yeah. So there's a lot of that kind of stuff hidden in my work somewhere.
Do you have to get licensed for anything like that? So, like,
No.
I was talking to him about it. There was on one of the comics, this guy has a Star Wars shirt.
Yeah.
I'm like, I wonder if he gets, runs into problems because of that.
No, so for that, you're just like referencing, like if he's doing that and then like blowing up a bank, I'm running into problems. But if I'm just like, because in that one, I have panels of like Kevin Smith stuff in there.
Right.
But that's just like homaging, so it's fair use if I do it that way. But if I'm like directly referencing like, and then Kevin Smith wrote this and did this on this day or whatever, and then like I have that character like kill a dog, I'm probably gonna get in trouble.
Really?
Yeah, they care about context more than like anything else. But just never touch anything Disney,
Yeah.
like Mickey Mouse or anything like that, like the cartoon stuff, because
Yeah.
they will just come for you.
Really?
Yeah, that's a note I got early on. They're like, don't do it. I was like, okay.
No shit.
Yeah.
Would it be the same for Nintendo as well?
I know Nintendo is real strict, even for like reviewers. If like your review is 100% glowing on like a game or whatever, like they will ask you to take it down.
No way.
Yeah,
So the game could suck. But
the
then,
game could suck. Yeah, like
You
that
wouldn't
last Pokemon game, Arceus or whatever, that sucked.
Wow.
It's not even that. Like Nintendo has had like a stranglehold over any like IP they've had since the 90s. Whenever they started putting that like stamp, that Nintendo approved thing on their games, that's when they started getting a stranglehold on all their IPs. So that's why they sued like everyone and everything.
So unless it's Nintendo approved review or whatever,
Pretty much, yeah.
Wow. So you'll never get an accurate review
No.
because they'll control it. Mm-hmm. Wow.
That's interesting.
Yeah. Interesting, man.
So Fan Expo, like, is that the first kind of? Have you done them before? These
Yeah.
expos and all that.
So I've done smaller shows. Fan Expo is my first 4-day show, so that's going to be a little nerve wracking because it's like 4 days.
You're doing all 4 days.
All 4 days, and they're long. They're like 11-hour days. So, and I don't sit when I'm at a convention. I stand the whole time, so that way I can like talk to people because it's more approachable. Like if someone's standing there and like they're putting their book in my hand, I'm more likely to read it. And then like if some guy's sitting there who's like, "Yeah, I wrote that, whatever." I'm just like, "Yeah, whatever." Yeah. If you don't care, I don't care.
Yeah.
So I stand, I talk, I pitch, I let people read it while they're there because if they want to read it, fine. I have like tamarindo, pulparindo, all that stuff on my table free for people that are walking by.
nice.
Because
Nice.
like if you're into it, you got to know that there's Mexican stuff everywhere. So if you're comfortable with that, try this. They pair well together. Take it and go have a fun time. But I got into GalaxyCon in Columbus, and I'm doing another one in Minnesota or something like that. So those are big
So
shows
you're like
too.
touring.
Yeah, I'm going everywhere. I'm trying to get into shows in California. I just got my application reviewed for San Diego Comic Con for next year. Oh. So I'm really excited. But that's going to be expensive to go. But I want to go there because I feel like that's where you go.
Is the booth expensive to set that up?
$400, I think. So not too bad because like smaller shows charge me like $100. Fan Expo charged me $350, so it's like $400 for that. I already have everything. I have the table skirt, I got the signs made, all that stuff. So I'm ready for it, and I want to go because I like being stressed and selling and doing all that stuff there. But it's just the days leading up to it are when I'm my worst. Like because I made a bunch of pins and stuff with all the characters on it. So now I'm like sorting, counting, make sure I got all of them, got all my numbers down. And then the day of the show, I'm just like, yeah, it's fine. There was a guy that came around. There was an older Mexican guy when I was in Columbus. And he kept looking at the pin for the last paletero. And I was like, oh, because he knows the words. He thinks it's cool, whatever. He's like, yeah, I'll buy the pin. I was like, do you want the book? I was like, because it goes with the book. Like, it comes from this book. He's like, no, I don't care about the book. I just want the pin. I was like, I will give you the book, sir, just so you know what it's about. He's like, no, I'm just going to wear the pin. I like the pin. I was like, all right, sale's a sale.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I was like, he's going to be confused or somebody's going to be like, oh, that's cool. And that's the book that always surprises me, too, with people because it's not the one I push the most because it's very much me in that book. So I'm just like, all right, they might like it, they might not like it, but I sell Lucha Forever over that one most of the time. But then people will see it, they're like, oh, that's a cool name. Yeah, I want it. I'm like, all right. I was like, I should put more faith in it.
Yeah, dude, you should. Just
I should.
go for it, man.
Yeah.
Who cares? That's awesome, dude. You got I mean, San Diego Comic Con, that's a big one.
Yeah. And I've never even been there as a fan, so I wouldn't know what to expect.
Yeah, I
Right.
mean,
Like, going in.
That's like the who's who of like
Yeah.
cons. Like sellers, resellers, influencers, artists, anything really.
Yeah.
Hopefully somebody like
Picks it
major.
up.
Yeah, dude, that's gonna be big.
Yeah, that's the dream.
I really do. I sincerely mean that. Is like I really do think that this is gonna take off for you. Like I can see it going pretty big because there just isn't any representation in that field.
Yeah.
You know, and once that gets big and starts blowing up, I think the artwork is awesome.
Yeah.
Fine.
That's
And
one
so-
thing I'm really picky about is like I get artists that send me their stuff all the time.
Yeah.
And I was just like, oh, I'll pass or like, yeah, we can work on this or whatever.
Yeah.
But I don't want any of the books. Like some of the artists, the one that did Last Ballot that also did Cinema Muerte. And that artist I use a lot because he's really fast and I use him for shorts or for Cinema Muerte. He's our lead artist. But all the other artists, like their style I match to like the story I was telling. And that's a big deal for me. It's just like if the book felt rushed, because I get a lot of guys that are like, oh, I wrote a comic too and give it to me. And they spend like 40 minutes telling me about the guy's powers and what he can do. I was like, but who is he? Like Lucha Forever. He has powers, but they don't matter. It's like who he is that matters for the story. That's what is missing from a lot of like indie comics. It's like, oh, don't tell me like he has tattoos, he can rip them off, and now he's got a sword. Like that's awesome. Like that's cool. But who is he and why does he do that and what drives him to do it? And they're like, oh, his family died. I'm like, yeah, that's most tragic tales in books or comics. I play D&D, and like every first player's D&D story is like his village was destroyed. I'm like, this man should want to kill himself.
Yeah.
I'm not going to go on an adventure. Like my family was just killed, and I'm like, I'm going to go storm this castle. I'm going to go figure this out.
Yeah.
For me, it wouldn't work that way. Yeah.
You should write a story about an accordion player who was pushed into the instrument by his mother and rigorously trained for decades to become the #1 accordion player in the world. and defeated a young man from China. I don't know what supernatural powers need to go into that. I'll let you figure that out. But it's that man's story right there.
I played the accordion for a hot second because my grandpa played it, and Mom was like, "No, you need to play because your grandpa was really good." And I was like, "I'm not." I was like, "I don't understand how to go slower with this thing because I want to go." And she's like, "No, like figure it out because there's money in accordions." I was like, "No, there isn't." I was like 8 years old. I was like, nobody is asking to hang out with the accordion player after the set. Maybe Weird Al, but like no one else is like hitting me up for this.
I was that guy for him.
You're his Weird Al.
I was the Weird Al. He played at my uncle's funeral home. Ironically enough, on Christmas, him and his cousin.
It's in Little Village, no?
No, it was actually on the.
What's it called?
Oh, I don't know now. He was working for somebody at that
okay.
time. He has his own now.
Oh, nice.
But yeah, that it was ironically enough. Growing up, we had Christmas in a funeral home, and so he came and entertained us for.
And you played.
Yeah.
Played the shit out
Yeah.
of that
Yeah.
squeeze box.
Just jamming out.
Yeah.
I've taken pictures at funerals, and that's a weird feeling because they're like, "Oh, you're a photographer. Do you mind taking pictures of like our family here?"
Have you ever seen anything,
Like felt stuff while at the funeral.
or even in the photo that you took?
Not in the photos, because I think if the ghost is going to translate to like digital, it would be like HD. None of this like kind of blurry things in the background,
Yeah.
or like an orb. Because I can explain orb because it's like a dust on my lens
Yeah.
or in my sensor. But like, so the place I work at in the morning is where people donate their bodies to science. So I prepare them for the schools for them to go out.
Oh, wow.
So in there, I talk a lot of shit when I go. I'm just like, dude, there's nothing here. Everyone's freaking out. Whatever. Like, let's just get to work. Then I'm there at 4:00 in the morning, unlocking the door by myself, and like no one came in with me that day. And then I hear something fall in the back. I'm just like turning up the volume on like my computer all the way up, and I'm just like watching some like conspiracy video thing or whatever. Like 10 Marvel characters that are making an appearance. I'm like, yeah, sure, play it. I don't care. Just like,
Yeah.
I don't want to hear that till the lights come out. Like, yeah, stuff like that I do here because I mean, Mexicans are just superstition in general for like most stuff. Yeah, like I won't look back if I hear something fall behind me. I was like, no, not my problem. Like, yeah, that's how they get you in every movie. So, yeah,
So you believe in the supernatural?
I do.
No.
I can't write that much about it and not be like a little skeptic. I think some of it can be explained, but just by like people being afraid or being tired at night and like hearing stuff. But like, there's got to be something more because when you're working at like a funeral thing or whatever, like in Lockjaw Pistoletto, magic doesn't come from like a source. There's no like ring of power or anything like that. Magic is from like this energy between people, and then what happens to that because that doesn't just dissipate, right? Like everyone says, like I feel like the person's still in the room with us. I think that's real.
Yeah.
And that's like a connection to like magic or spirituality or whatever you want to call it. I think that's tangible, but I don't think we're mentally capable or even like at a state as people where we can tune into that because we're too busy, right? Like if I think about somebody and I'm like, oh, okay, I miss this person, I'm going to put on their song. And that's how I'll reconnect with them. But that ability to just feel them, I don't think we're quiet enough as people to be able to do that anymore.
That makes sense.
Yeah, I think like that log cabin just out in the wilderness kind of thing. I think that's the closest you get to magic. But I mean, we only do that temporarily and then come back to like this.
Yeah.
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 I think more people would believe in aliens if like there wasn't so much light pollution. You can look up and see stars. So that's why I think like a lot of this stuff happens in rural areas because like you're out there, you're alone. Anything that looks weird, you're calling it out.
Yeah.
But here it's just like, oh, they saw aliens in like Nevada. I'm like, why is it always Nevada? Because they can see the stars.
Yeah.
Yeah, they could be flying over us, and I'd be like, oh, we're like closer to Midway, so it's probably something over there.
Yeah.
Just avoiding it. Yeah.
Yeah, we're gonna have to show you that video when this.
Oh,
is
for
on.
sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's pretty interesting that
Yeah.
video. So,
Would you ever do anything like animated?
So we did a little animation thing for like Lucha Forever that my buddy put together, and we wanted to do it. So I got friends that are like voice actors and stuff from when I was doing movies. So we were working on doing like a little animated Lucha Forever thing of like the first 8 pages, but that's expensive. It takes a lot of time. I like to supervise the art, so like making sure the characters are to like frame or reference and all that stuff. So I wouldn't like if a studio approached me about it, absolutely, let's do it. But for me as like an indie creator, that's like years down the line, if anything.
I would
Way
love
out
to
of
be a voice actor. I would like to try my hand at voice acting. And just like,
We don't have a voice for El Toro Fuerte for that thing we were doing.
Oh shit!
Oh shit.
I'll do it.
Yeah.
I'll fucking do
That'd
it,
be
dude.
fun. Yeah.
Yeah, like I have no experience first and
It's
foremost.
fine.
but
That's
I
my
will
job
keep-
as a director is to get you there. So
All right,
Yeah.
I'll do it, dude.
That's fucking awesome.
I'm in.
Yeah.
I am in.
that'd be cool.
Dude, this is awesome.
I'd be down too.
I'm excited.
Yeah, no, for sure. Because we're gonna do little trailers to help advertise it. So I think we're gonna do like little 2-second or like 2-minute clip things of it, but just like picking sequences of the comic and then just animating those panels.
Okay.
And moving them like panels on the screen.
Right.
That's our best bet, is to do something like that. So when we do it, I want to have voice actors come out and do it and that kind of setup. You're used to using this, so you're not gonna be like this over it the whole time.
Right.
You know, like you can breathe.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
You ever see Bowfinger?
Yeah.
You know that scene where the cop busts out and he goes, "Tough guys like you don't make it far in life," like that kind.
Yeah.
That's what I'm gonna bring to the table.
Perfect.
That's exactly.
Just stop mid thing and be like, line. We'll fix it in post.
Yeah. That's good.
Yeah.
No. All right, man. I'm psyched. This is gonna be awesome. This is
Yeah, all right.
gonna be a breakout career move for me right now. Well, cool, man. Is there anything you want to plug before we wrap it up here today?
If anyone's gonna be at Fan Expo, we're at table A150. Come by, say hi. We're gonna have all the comics. We're gonna have Cinema Muerte 2 available. Americana is gonna be available, which is like our new big horror title.
Okay.
So like Stephen King-y, that kind of stuff. That's what that book is. So that's gonna be a huge one. It's one of my favorites. And then it's a good time to jump into Lockjaw because we got issue 2 will be coming out soon, and we have a short. It's Lockjaw killing Christopher Columbus, so that's gonna be fun for people.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
It's fucking awesome.
so that short's out. So that one I expect some kind of like. Angry
You're gonna
people
get.
with.
You're gonna
I'm
get.
at-
Fuck
yeah,
them.
I'm selling that in Columbus when I go back. So
All right.
yeah, but for like it's fun. Like it's a supernatural twist on everything, but like also fuck that guy, right?
Yeah. Fuck that guy.
Dude, that's
Yeah.
gonna be a good one. Yeah.
That sounds like it's going to be a great one.
Yeah,
I want you to sign that book for me.
I will. Yeah,
That's gonna be sweet.
I wouldn't mind a copy of that if you did.
I will bring him by next time too.
Hey, man. Well, thank you so much for joining us
Thank you
today.
guys
We
for having me.
really appreciate having you. We want to have you back when the new
Yes.
stuff comes out.
For sure.
Hopefully, you're a regular.
Yeah, let me know.
Appreciate it,
I'll
man.
come back. More
All right, man.
alien news comes, I'll be prepared.
All right, for sure, dude. Thank you so much.
Thank you guys.
All right, guys, if you guys want to check us out on Instagram, SOS Podcast 4, subscribe, like, share here at the YouTube channel. We're going to start expanding out onto Spotify. Arkham2442 is my personal one.
The unicorn in human form.
Rotansky everywhere except for Truth and Parlor.
And we got
At Avina Comics on all platforms.
Thank you, guys. Take it easy.